Hey, thank you for checking out another weekly breakdown of the weekly song. This week's song was called "Cause It Failed," which some of you guys have already heard from the Americana album that came out in 2016. And the reason why I wanted to use this song as a weekly is, well, because I think it's one of my favorite songs that I have. I love the production, I love the content, and I feel like it ties into the overall ethos of everything that I'm presenting with my Monday Motivation videos. This joint is produced by Eric Kingsley, who did a great job on this track. He built it around an acapella. I originally recorded it with my man Jay Ruckers. Did a scratch demo at his studio where we were kind of building around it, and I had this idea, the concept first, and then we just kind of built around it, and then I laid like a scratch vocal down, and it just didn't really fit the rest of the album. And so Eric took the acapella and rebuilt this really dope beat around it, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's one of my more experimental songs, but I think it's one of my favorite songs that I've ever done. So the whole concept was actually pulled from a Stephen Furtick message. I don't know if any of you guys know Stephen Furtick, Elevation. I don't remember which message it was, but he said, "Cause it failed didn't mean it didn't work." And it's this idea that God allows us to prepare oftentimes for the next thing by failing at the last thing. And we want our lives to be linear. We want our lives to just always go up with an upward trajectory. And though I believe you can make decisions and contribute to things to consistently grow and consistently progress, there's just also certain variables we can't control. And there's also, and sometimes the plans that we have for ourselves aren't necessarily the plans that God has for us, or the plans that are going to come to fulfillment. The first verse goes, "I used to think I'd be in the NBA. True story. Stop hooping when I got cut by Coach Wooten." Funny story is I just saw Coach Wooten at Vista High School. I was there supporting my man Charlie Powers. They were playing at FCA, and Coach Wooten, who still teaches there, he's not a coach anymore, but man, he did me such a solid up until probably my end of my freshman year. Like, I thought I was gonna be a professional basketball player. Like, I really believed that. I wasn't good enough, and I didn't do well on teams, and I didn't understand like the science of basketball. And so, man, Coach Wooten cut me my sophomore year. I didn't make the JV team. I was devastated, but it was right around the same time where I really discovered my heart and my passion for music. And my mom had got me a home studio at the time, home setup, and I just was like, all right, cool, like, I'm gonna do this, I guess. And started thinking I'd be the next Michael Jordan, cause he got cut too. And what I was sporting was ankle weights and jump soles, extra creatine, snorting protein powder, open paraphernalia from my lunchbox. Made my jump shot go a little higher than the rest of them. No suicide doors, but suicide drills, I was the best at them. When I was young, man, I was watching all kinds of jumping tutorials, jumping videos. I had jump soles. I had, oh man, I was taking creatine and, workout supplements and all that kind of stuff. And I really thought I was gonna make it, and I get clowned, but I was super disciplined and zoned in, And what I was sporting was ankle weights and jump soles, extra creatine, snorting protein powder, open paraphernalia from my lunchbox. Made my jump shot go a little higher than the rest of them. No suicide doors, but suicide drills, I was the best at them. No one told me I was short and white. I thought I had a black man swag like I was Dolomite. You don't believe I'm gonna make it wrong, I'm about to show you right. While other kids was figure skating on boards and riding roller bikes. Skate culture exploded around the same time I was really into basketball, and that was just something I never got into. There was way more subcultures, I feel like, back then. Nowadays, it's totally cool to skate and be an athlete and be into hip hop and be a good student and be into comics. You know what I mean? Like, back then, it was much more segmented, and there was little crossover between different cliques, but you kind of had to be on the inside to know those types of things. I was so focused and disciplined, not caring about fitting in, not caring what anyone thought, cause my hard work would soon pay off, consumed with thoughts of jumping higher, being flyer than the promo piece. My hoop dreams were deflated by reality, I'd soon believe. What's that? Just cause it failed doesn't mean it didn't work. Despite the fact that I, wasn't good or genetically didn't have the advantages to be a great basketball player, I was still very determined, and I was still very, very passionate about the game of basketball and trying to do my best to learn it. I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna go and get this workout real quick in the gym. I used to think I'd be a superstar, a pop icon, a rap typhoon with a huge platform. I used to think I'd be the next Tupac. Screaming thug life to the cops, middle fingers to the top while I'm taking 5 shots. The setup for those lines specifically is I think most of us who start out making music, start out with very, very high hopes in mind. Everybody wants to be the biggest artist in the world. And I didn't really understand the drama that comes with that, and just the turmoil that comes with that kind of platform. And I also didn't factor in, or maybe they didn't exist at the time, a middle class tier of artistry where you can be successful, you can make a decent, comfortable living, but you don't have to deal with the turmoil of success. And it's more of a realistic platform to land on and potentially start there and then branch off versus trying to just become a superstar overnight. And everybody, envisions their career that way. There's so many variables to make something on that level, so many things that we don't control as artists, like cosigns, like label exposure, tour support, that you can't really control those variables. You can control your output and you can control your creativity and how much music you put out and how well you create and polishing your craft. But you can't always control the other stuff that goes along with making it on that mass market scale that I think many of us aspire towards. And so that's what those lines are about. And then, I used to think I'd be the next Tupac. So Tupac was always one of my favorite rappers. I was a Tupac stan. I'd watch all the documentaries. I'd read all the conspiracy theories. When you're growing up and you're 11, 12, 13 years old and that's your idol, it's totally different when you're his age or you're older than him and you kind of look back in hindsight and you realize that, like, man, like, even though Tupac was 25, he had just turned 25 when he passed, but man, he was still a kid. Like, he's still, as smart as he was and as creative as he was, there was still a lot of immaturity there. But I'm still a huge Tupac fan regardless. But still deep and political with a message and a purpose. Because clearly playing basketball wasn't mine. The dichotomy in music, what some people would say a contradiction, is evident in some of the most successful artists. Some of the most successful music in hip hop tends to kind of contradict itself. And I'm feeling more certain being a pro athlete wasn't working. So at the end of the day, well, I just might as well rhyme. So I studied the greats, worked like every day, even learned the music business with the hopes of getting more paid. My pursuit of music was always just art. And then when I discovered basic business principles, basic ideas of how to communicate, how to have a plan, strategy, it helped me elevate my game. And that early on started when I got around an artist named TJ from Pittsburgh, and he gave me this book called The Indie Bible. And I was young. I was like, it's got to be like 05, 06. And he just gave me some game and was always telling me, like, look, you got, like, if you considered the business, if you considered the other side of this whole music thing outside of just the music, you could potentially be very successful. And I really appreciated him for that. And I just talked to him recently about that. And then the second time those wheels started spinning is when I got around my man Braille in 2010. I was working on a mixtape. He was working on Weapon Aid. Me and Belief were actually on Weapon Aid, and he gave me a lot of game because he, at the time, was doing what I'm doing now. He was running an independent label called Hip Hop is Music, and he was an artist. And granted, it was a different time, but he gave me a lot of wisdom and a lot of jewels and helped me out a lot. And I'm still friends with him till this day. I'm going to be actually out that way next week, and I'm going to be hanging out with them. So shout out to Braille and the Humble Beast guys. And yeah, and so learning the business of getting more paid. Pay my dues. Schools out fools. Got the blueprint, then share it with a few. Never got credit, but still that's cool. Those on the inside know it's true. And then in that, I think once you gain wisdom and you gain knowledge, the practical thing is to give it away and give it back to people. As I've never really gotten credit or really been thanked until recently, where I started doing the Motivational Monday videos through this YouTube channel. But prior to that, like, I've been helping artists behind the scenes. I've been helping artists with marketing plans. I'm talking outside of my own label. And sometimes when you do that out of the goodness of your heart, that is often forgotten. The last part, I feel like for the longest, people thought very low of the music and the corporate structure of major labels and high of the business. And I think in independent music, that's inverted. And so people think very high of the art and low of the practical business principles that it takes to get the art out there.
When the plan didn't work, but at least not mine. In my timeline, I should have been made it and I learned how to work hard with my cause, and I got smarter, a bit more educated, emotional intelligence grew.
So in my timeline, I would have been made it. Again, it's that thought of like, you view your life in a certain way. And the truth is, I spent a good chunk of my career, when I could have just been focusing on music, I spent volunteering and in ministry at my church. I spent helping other artists and run a label. I went to college. I did all kinds of other stuff that in hindsight, I sometimes wonder, man, like if I had just focused on my own music, where could have my career been? But the flip side of all that is I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have the skill set. I wouldn't be able to stack my talents the same way I have. And therein lies contentment. Therein lies God's timing and not my timing. Therein lies peace and joy, regardless of where I feel like I should be in the trajectory of my career. And that's just a very honest, brutal assessment of life as an independent musician who's multifaceted and not just a creative, but also an entrepreneur. There's a tension there. And I'm glad I've been able to walk through that despite it feeling inconvenient and cumbersome and like I'm taking the scenic route oftentimes.
Emotional intelligence grew, and I'm learning just how to maneuver. But with people that aren't like me, because that could be difficult too.
Emotional intelligence, I know Gary Vee talks a lot about it. That's something that I've been intentional about growing in, because I'm not from this country and I don't like small talk. I can culturally come off kind of intense. I'm learning how to be engaged with people. I'm learning how to really connect with people, whether it's through my superphone, in person, in the comments section, because at the end of the day, I really do care about people and I really care about helping people.
Just because it failed doesn't mean it didn't work. Because I would go berserk if I still had to work a 9 to 5 for some jerk.
I'm not saying that working a job is whack or bad. I'm saying that working a job is good if you can use that to develop your skill set and grow. And that's just a matter of perspective. That's not a knock at anybody working a job. I've worked tons of jobs, and I've always used those jobs to grow and to make me better. And that's what I would encourage you guys. If you're an entrepreneur and you're in a season where you got to work a job, see that as an opportunity to grow and evolve and to polish your skill set.
I'm not saying that I found my full purpose, but I'm closer than I've ever been. Of that, I'm certain.
I live in a tension as a creative and as an entrepreneur, as an artist and as a business person. It's good, it's healthy for me. And I'm not saying that I found it all and I figured it all out, but I'm closer than I've ever been. The skills that I've acquired from
chasing my own tail have given me an edge despite these plans having failed. And what is failure anyway? I wouldn't be who I am today.
So again, taking that whole idea of failure, taking that whole idea of expectation and flipping it on its head and really examining what is failure, what do these things really mean when we say succeed or fail? Because oftentimes it's just a matter of perspective. I may have not reached my goal of being the greatest selling rapper by the age of 25 or whatever abstract expectation I put on myself, but I've gained so much more and I'm so much more grateful for the journey. So hopefully that kind of breaks down the song a little bit for you guys. Thank you guys for watching this. Hey, if you guys didn't know, my brother Belief is dropping Belief in Fatherhood. I don't know when you're watching this, but it comes out this Monday, May 8th. So if you're watching this in the future, just go buy the album. If you're watching this, and it's live or, not live, but really current, go pre-order that thing on iTunes. So open up your iTunes app, pre-order it. It'll help us out a ton. We want to make sure that charts. And then also I'll be on the road and I need you guys to support, come out to some shows. I'll be in Seattle on May 13th and Boston, New York City, Toronto the following weekend, which is it's a holiday weekend. And then I do Dallas and Houston and Los Angeles. So I'm looking for openers in Houston. So if you're in the Houston area, hit me up. But I'm super excited. Give me a shout. Let me know what you think about this idea of failure and success and the tension of being a creative entrepreneur. Do you guys relate? Am I alone in this tension that we're talking about? I want to hear from you guys. And as always, thumbs up, share this video, and make sure you're subscribed. Thank you so much. Peace.